Make your move with a mortgage from Sagicor Bank.
All right, folks, so with the rise of indiscipline and violence in our schools, joining us now to discuss the necessity or the absolute need for programs to help students better manage their anger is lecturer in practical theology at the United Theological College of the West Indies, Reverend Neilson Waite, and Suzanne Rowe-Blidgen. Blidgen, CEO, Blidgen Consultants. Welcome both to Smile Jamaica. Good to have you. Let me write this down phonetically so I don't forget it again. Tell me a little bit about, not that we don't know, Rev, but the catalyst for this program, no.
Yeah, well, we've been talking about it for some time. As a matter of fact, Unitas of Jamaica, social agency, and the practical theology department, we've been talking about anger management. About before that, I had my students trained in restorative justice, and I would go to the Ministry of Justice, and then I brought Mr. Mark Golden to the campus, and then I brought Mr. Delroy Chuck to the campus. I also brought the anthropologist Herbert Gale, because we were interested in having students who are training to be pastors and ministers around the Caribbean to know how you can make a more important impact on schools and children, because that has been something that I've been interested in now for a long time, counseling and therapy and working with children in schools. And so more than 25 years ago, I decided to write some stuff because principals are asking me to respond to challenges with children. And so I put the little handbook
together
on paper, and from then, you know, we've been trying to do that. So we got some sponsorship from the Methodist Church in the United Kingdom. So we are distributing to schools from the Students Association and the Practical Theology Department some books and some handbooks. And so we felt that this year we need to go bigger.
So Suzanne, it's the Take Control campaign.
Right.
Tell me a little bit about it and what does it entail?
Right, so the Take Control campaign will speak to helping students to deal with anger and conflict, right? It's called Take Control, and the slogan is Take Control of Anger before it takes control of your life. It will be in 4 phases. The initial phase is to get the handbook into the school to as many students as possible. After that, in order for them to ensure reinforcement and knowledge, we would love to launch a competition on Instagram where we ask them to act out or sing a song, create a drama, create a song with using chapters in the handbook. And then we would love to, phase 3, we'd love to go into the schools now to have a anger managed forum where we'll have question and answers and further, you know, talk to them about how to treat with conflict and how to forgive and all of that. And then phase 4 for sustainability, because we don't just want to give them a come and go ride. So we want to have a support group in the school where we have mentors, mentors from corporate Jamaica, from the churches, from the schools, from the community to mentor a child and do it continuously. And also, we would love to train persons in the school, the guidance counselor, the deans, and teachers on how to teach anger management. So they have continuous anger management workshop.
You say, Rev, you've been working on this for a little while, many years, decades in fact. Here we are in 23. Would you say the situation has gotten exceedingly worse, and what would you attribute that to if the answer is in fact yes?
Well, I recognize in 1995, Mr. Golden came out with his book, Emotional Intelligence. But doing the research now, in 1973, some researchers from my alma mater, Yale University, recognized that there is an emotional brain that impacts how we relate. We feel before we think. And you have to go there.
We feel before we think. It's true. That's why so many of us end up in problem.
And that is the problem. So the impulsive behavior, take for instance, the this last weekend, 13-year-old is killing her 19-year-old. 2 lives are lost.
Yeah.
And
Dahlia talks about it all the time.
And so the challenge here is to help persons not to act before they think. And so we have to go there with our young people. The challenge also has to do in terms of how they respond when they're under pressure. when their peers are pressuring them to respond in a violent way. So we want them to be able to see that that's the easy way to get a ratchet knife or to get a gun. That's the easy way. But the hard way is
Be in control and try to make a
Exactly.
rational.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Is this the vehicle for the child in 23?
Yes.
You know, is the child going to read this book, given all the other deluge of information and the digital channels that exist, and they're on Instagram, they're on, right? Is this the right?
Yes, hence the reason why we want to get it to the students, but to ensure that they read it, we will be launching the competition where they go on Instagram. You know, they live on the social media platform. So we'll be encouraging them to create a drama, create a song with regards to the chapters in the book, post it on Instagram, and then get as much likes as possible. Because we know they like to do that. So that's the reinforcement method. And we're seeking the help of the guidance counselors and the principal and the teachers to have some session with them, because it's not it's a workable book. It speaks. Our author wrote the book that it speaks to them. So it's like he's talking to them. So there's activities in the book. So we're going to go in and speak to the principals and ask them to have a session. And that is why we also want to have the 2-hour session also to go in. We'll bring along the book and we will talk about it as well.
Yeah, I was about to ask in terms of the content of the book, Reverend, and just how practical it was. Suzanne says, you know, there are things in it that they can do. It's interactive. Talk to me about the shaping and the design of it.
Well, it came out of my experiences with schools and children. I took a break from it because
It was a lot.
I went through all the schools in St. Kitts. I went through all the schools in Antigua. And I'm doing all of this work, and because I want to get not only to the teachers and training them, I want to get to the students and listening to them. And then I want to get to the parents. So I'm doing the PTA groups. I'm doing the parent.
A lot of work.
Exactly.
Well, let me ask you, Rev, interesting. So all the school in St. Kitts, all the schools in where?
Antigua.
So tell
And
me
then
how,
I'm in Grenada with the teachers as well.
how do we compare? I'm curious.
Oh, it's big. Jamaica. That's why I took a break. And then I said, let me.
But in terms of the actual situation, the problem at hand,
No.
we are worse.
It
We're
is
worse.
bigger. It's much bigger. I wouldn't say worse, but it's much bigger. And
It's
therefore,
okay to say worse if we're worse.
And therefore, in terms of understanding the
Yeah,
dynamics that
yeah.
are there, St. Kitts had some challenges as well in terms of gangs as well. And so we want to hear from the students, and that's what that's how the book came about in terms of listening to them. Because I have a book called Provocation, Caribbean Youth, Anger, Violence, and Crime. And that came out of listening to the children and recognizing that we provoke, as adults, we provoke them. Situations and systems, church, society, politicians, we provoke many of our young people to anger, violence, and crime. And so unless we are willing to listen, and so it was...
Actively.
Actively.
Yeah.
And therefore, I was doing some training on Saturday with some lay chaplains of the Anglican Church, and I listened to the principal of Moshet, and Mr. Leighton Johnson. He's the president-elect of the Jamaica
Teachers Association.
Right. He has a system that I've been talking about for a long time. You have to have the parent, you have to have a community, the church, you have to have the students on in a support group, so that when you hear or you see situations arising in the school, you can bring them in, you can nip into the bud, and you can talk to them.
It's a collective effort.
A collective
Suzanne,
effort.
before we go, I'm a parent, I'm a teacher, I'm watching, and I want to take control in my school, or have you guys come in and engage my students. What do I do?
Right, so I have sent out lots of email to, I started with the primary schools. I'll be sending out emails to the principal of all the schools in Jamaica. I have the list. So I'll be sending out the information. And we are asking, we are seeking the support of corporate Jamaica to aid us in getting the books to the students. So I have also spoken to...
Tell them specifically what you want them to do.
Right.
With the printing or with the distribution?
No, with the distribution.
Okay.
So I've spoken to Dr. Renee Level, which is the national president of the Deans Association. information about the program. She's very interested. I've also got the opportunity to speak to some of the deans yesterday as well. So the next step is to send out the emails to the principals so they'll know about it, and then to speak to Corporate Jamaica. I've sent out emails to about 500 companies to ask them to assist in the donation of the books. And once we get that, we'll go into the schools and we will distribute it. As I said, it's a collaborative effort between the dean, the guidance counselor, and the principal.
Awesome. I want to thank you guys for all the work that you do. We have to go. I want to thank you for being with us this morning and sharing the information. It's important.
Timely.
Yes.
It's very important. So we're happy that.
And we're thanking you for responding to us and your call for an anger management program. I think that was novel.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, we'll be back after this short break with Marvin Campbell and Natalie Johnson of the Maya Foundation. Listen, come.
Fresh air in a